All right, hello, welcome back. It's good to see you guys. It's Lazy Shen, and if you, I don't know if you can notice or you can tell or not, but I just woke up, and also I'm currently not home. I'm out and about, so the camera situation, the mic stuff might be a little bit out of whack. I apologize. Please bear with me, okay? Next week we'll be back to our regular scheduled programming. But yes, guys, good to see you guys. It won't stop me. Being away from home won't stop me from looking at the new IDs and ego stuff. And today they dropped Devyat Association North Section 3rd Sinclair, as well as the Symmetrical Inertia Heathcliff, the new ego for Heathcliff. And this one might be a little bit easy to understand, or at least a little bit fast, because the Sinclair ID for Devyat will be very, very similar to the Raja ID for Devyat. So expect something similar as well from both sides. And basically, it's almost exactly a carbon copy with a little bit of differences here and there. You'll see it in a second here. But first and foremost, it's going to roll Lust, Gluttony, and Wrath. Whereas the Raja one rolled, I believe, Lust, Wrath, Gluttony. This one is the same ego resources, but slightly moved around. And his third skill, the biggest skill, will be Wrath, because Sinclair is an angry little boy. Let's see. Starting with the passives. He has his own version of Courier Trunk called Courier Trunk Sinclair, which is a stacker, and at higher stacks, he does more stuff. But also at higher stacks, he starts taking damage. So similar to the Raja one, you'll gain about 3 stacks every turn, and the stacks will be maintained when he retreats. At about 10 stacks, he'll gain max and min speed. Given that the Raja one had a base speed of 4 to 7, this is probably going to be similar. And so expect a 5 to 8 speed from this boy when he's stacked up to 20 stacks, which is 10 stacks, which is great. At 20, he'll gain Clash Power Up and Blunt Power Up, which is going to be fantastic for damage, as well as clashing output as well. And then at 30 stacks, he'll start taking damage before he retreats. And then his other passive, Strategic R&R, basically saying that if he gets staggered, he leaves the game. And then whenever he would leave the game, he will substitute in for an enemy. But if there's no subs, then he will just simply die, which is not great for our managers that are maybe less inclined to read and more inclined to lose Clash, but nonetheless, still a great skill for getting him out of danger if necessary. And then he'll come back later, We'll see. You'll see in a second. Let's take a look at his skills. First skill is a Lust skill, Decay Hammer. Courier Trunk Decay Hammer is going to roll 2 coins, probably similar to the Raja, which rolls I believe, a 3 or a 4 plus, a 3 plus 4. Yeah, so at base, it'll roll just over 11, just about 11, and plus some Clash Power if you get it. And then Coin Power as well will increase the ability. Coin Power or Rupture on the target will increase the coin power on this skill. Courier Trunk will increase the coin power on this skill. Probably go up to 2, so it'll roll up to a 6. And so instead of 11, it'll instead roll a 15, which is not a bad roll for an S1, all things considered. And then you'll see it is a Rupture count maintainer, meaning above 15 Rupture and 3 Rupture count. It will not lose Rupture on the target when he pops, which is going to be great because a lot of his skills are a lot of coins, which oftentimes eats Rupture count, but not so for him. And you'll see on his first skill, he will gain his Courier Trunk, and more so if he has less than 15 Courier Trunk. And then on his second hit, he will inflict the Rupture count. Whereas the Raja one inflicts Rupture potency, this one inflicts Rupture count. So great way to maintain count on your other sinners who may be a little bit more greedy for Rupture. And goes Rupture negative, he will stay Rupture positive. On the second skill, Courier Trunk, Demolition Gadget, as I zoom back in, is a similar skill to Raja's Gadget Reveal. It will be probably about a 4 plus 4, so 16 base plus up to a 22, which is a very consistent roll for an S2, a very, very high roll. And it's a Rupture count maintainer, as well as inflicting, instead of Rupture, he will inflict defense down at a certain amount of Rupture. So he maintains Rupture and also makes your team do more damage. He'll gain haste for the next turn, which does he need it for already rolling 5 to 8 speed? You be the judge. You be the judge, and not me, because he is one of the fastest units alive. he puts a guy on a horse to shame for sure. But he'll gain Courier Trunk as well. So expect to gain about 5 Trunk every turn. So 4 turns in, he'll probably be max stacked and ready to be the fastest fuck. On the second hit, he'll inflict rupture or defense down if he's at high enough, if the enemy's at high enough count, and inflicts rupture count as well, and then rupture and rupture count. So this unit is going to be a great unit to stack up rupture and rupture count, and then keep it there, and then help his team do more damage. Whereas a lot of other rupture egos or IDs do straight damage and straight gas, his is the guy who refuels the gas. A great addition to a rupture team. He's going to be probably seen more in the rupture team than actually Raja, since there's a lot of nuke options, but not as many options that stay rupture positive. Let's see. Polonitsa, I Trust You, which is going to be similar to I Trust You, Polonitsa, Raja's skill. This is going to do some high coin clashing power. So expect like a 25 roll as well at base when you have enough courier trunk stacks, and then more so with clash power up, of course. This also maintains rupture count and instead does more damage to the final coin, whereas Raja's says reuse the final coin, his does more coin power damage. So, he is very much missing the line of text at the beginning of his S2 and S3 that Raja has, which says do more damage based on courier trunk on self. So this ID will do less damage overall than Raja, but it applies more rupture. And so you be the judge whether that's useful for your team. If you need someone who applies more rupture, Sinclair's your guy. If you need some more damage, Raja's your gal. This one will apply rupture count as well as, rupture potency and haste as well, if you did not apply the final coin power. So overall, this ID is going to be fantastic for a team that needs rupture application. As you can see, his passives, his defensive skills are going to be similar as well to Raj's. And he's going to be probably going to be rolling an 8 plus 4, so about a 16 roll at max, and going to be fantastic to defend himself. He's going to give himself a shield and a counter. And just be careful though, because at about 15 courier trunk stacks, he'll instead use wait, I need to do some maintenance, which will immediately eject him from the game. So don't use this if you want him to stay inside the fight. If he's at 15 plus courier trunk stacks, just don't use the defensive skill. Just attack. I mean, granted, you probably won't be losing Clash anyway, because his high Clash power is going to be, second to basically none. There's not much use for this skill other than early on. Later on, or like if you need to really get him out of there, you want to swap somebody in, because when you do swap him out, he does give his team Clash power up, which is going to be fantastic. But generally, you don't want to use his skill too much, because you will lose the unit if he has too high of a courier trunk. And then in chain battles, he'll use courier trunk. This is just saying that when he retreats, he'll rejoin with half the value of his courier trunk, which is going to be good for maintaining his health. And then he will give Clash power up when he leaves as well. And then his support passive, when he's on the bench, he will give the fastest unit rupture, the hits an enemy with rupture, defense level down on hit. So basically, the fastest guy on your team, which is probably going to be Raja or that new, what's his face? That new Merceau, will inflict defense level down on hit, increasing their attack output. So overall, this ID, in general, as an overview, it will be doing a lot of application of rupture and rupture count, and allow his team to really pop off. So he's not the damage dealer. Obviously, he's the utility. And your team definitely is going to need one of these to maintain a high rupture count. So fantastic unit addition to the team. And honestly, probably one of the more useful units you can have on the team. Might be like a must include in rupture teams as well. Whereas a lot of other units have a lot of nuke. This one maintains rupture count. So going to be very, very useful. If you want to build a rupture team, he's probably going to be a highly anticipated and must include in your team bracket. Next is going to be the asymmetrical inertia He ego for Heathcliff. It is rupture support. Tremor support. Does he need more tremor support? Not necessarily, but it is a he ego, which means it will replace his other he ego's telepole, which is a charge support, as well as Yasunyata, which is a lust support. So overall, and also, fragile support and like buffs, whatever, it doesn't matter. Anyway, what I'm trying to say is this is going to be tremor support, and better way, an easier way to access Tremor as opposed to using his Vav Ego binds, which is very, very expensive. So a cheap way for those of you who like to use Oomphy to access Tremor. Plus, it's Sloth, which is fantastic for Tremor, as you'll see in a second, because his attack, what it does is, it's, let's see. So, first and foremost, the passive, Broken Bell. Inflicts fragile turn on enemies who are hit by Tremor Burst and skill, coin, or passive effect. So basically, anyone, the enemies get the effect of the Broken Bell Ego Gift. As you can see, it doesn't stack with the Ego Gift, that is the same thing. But basically, you get an Ego Gift for free on this passive. And then, on his skill, different computer. This one is going to be the Ego Awakened skill is Asymmetrical Inertia. It is a blunt 2-coin slot skill that will inflict a tremor count on himself. And then, Infinity Stones, it is Tremor Clock Winding, which is a different tremor application. This one applies it on himself. And why? Because Tremor Clock Winding gives him max speed and also converts his tremor count into tremor potency and count when he does it. So this is a crazy buff for Oofy Heathcliff. And basically, in the future, as well, when he gains other tremor IDs, going to be crazy. A way for him to be super fast. And also usable on just gaining max speed for his other egos. You might include this on other IDs as well, just to gain the max speed, if for like a turn or so. As well, if you so Claire, because it gives him tremor count, and then on hit it will inflict tremor count as well as tremor on heads or tremor count on tails. So a great way to not go negative. It maintains a positive outlook on life, so you don't go in the hole. And then on the second hit, we'll burst once, and we'll inflict Sloth Fragility on this turn. So a great skill to use before your other Sloth skills. And if you have Sloth Resonance, also will allow you to nuke next turn as well. So not only does it enable him to really stack up tremor potency and count on the enemy, as well as be the fastest person in the room, he also will apply Sloth Fragility to let your other Sloth units do more damage. And then looking at the corrosion skill, you will see that it is obviously targets randomly, indiscriminate, but this one will give him clock winding just like the first. It inflicts tremor counts as well. And then 2 tremor bursts instead of 1, and the Sloth Fragility as well. Plus the fragile. So overall, this ego is going to be fantastic for Tremor. Didn't think Tremor was going to get another support going forward, but this is going to be crazy for Tremor and Heathcliff enjoyers who do use Oofy right now, and a lot of Tremor teams still, because Tremor is still very much a very strong team. This will enable Tremor teams to do a crazy amount of damage, and also gives him the ability to stack up Tremor really high. Tremor inflicts more tremor potency and count on skill based on the tremor count that he has. So his other skills that inflict tremor will inflict even more tremor, which is going to be amazing. So overall, 2 very strong contenders for additions to your team. If you're running a Rupture team, definitely pick up this Sinclair, because he's a Rupture count and Rupture inflicting monster. And then a great addition for your Tremor team is going to be the Asymmetrical Inertia Heathcliff, which will replace a generally not used Ego on your team with one that you will be trying to pop probably every turn. And that's going to be the review, guys. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. Peace.